So Keir Starmer is on his way back from his meeting with Donald Trump at the White House, where the US president expressed optimism about reaching a peace agreement for Ukraine and securing a real trade deal between the US and Britain.
President Trump also accepted an invitation from King Charles for an unprecedented second state visit to Britain. And Health Secretary Wes Streeting joins us now. So, Starmer is a lot of the newspapers' headlines this morning, which I'm sure is thrilling Downing Street and the government generally. But can we drill into some of the detail? What we didn't hear was a security guarantee that the Prime Minister wanted from Donald Trump. In fact, we heard throwaway sentences like, Brits do well on their own. And what we did hear was the promise of a great, and I quote, US-UK trade deal. Now, we know the devil's in the detail on that, don't we? Can you guarantee that the NHS and the British health markets are off the table in that deal?
Good morning. I thought it was a fantastic meeting in Washington yesterday and the culmination of a lot of hard work and dialogue on critical issues on defence and security, as well as economic trade and cooperation. So fantastic from the point of view of Britain's national interest. The Prime Minister went to Washington to deliver for our country, to deliver for Ukraine and to deliver for our continent. And he did all of those things. And of course, there's still a lot more to work through and things are moving quickly. On those specific issues, I think we can take some heart and confidence from the fact that President Trump has sought to change the conversation on Ukraine since he came in to how we end the war and win the peace. What he said yesterday, once again reaffirming the United States commitment to Article 5 of the North Atlantic Charter. This is the thing that, the principle that an attack on one NATO member is an attack on all. That's been the bedrock of Britain's as well as NATO's collective security. President Trump reaffirmed that. And what he is talking to President Zelensky about today in Washington is about having a stronger US economic presence in Ukraine, which should also act as a deterrent to future Russian aggression. So I think there are lots of grounds for optimism there. And then on the NHS, just to be clear, for the avoidance of any doubt, our NHS is not on the table. It is not for sale. Where I think we can do a lot more with the United States to our benefit, to theirs, and to the interests of patients is a lot more on life sciences, medical technology and research. The UK's got a lot to offer. We've got an incredibly strong science base. We really punch above our weight in the world in this country. So we can make sure the NHS isn't just benefiting from new treatments and technologies, but in the driving seat, making sure that we are leading the world in scientific breakthroughs, working to develop those new treatments and technologies, being at the front of the queue for those new treatments and technologies, and getting a good deal on price on those treatments and technologies, as well as the economic growth benefits. So there's a lot up for grabs. But as you said, I was really excited by the warm words from President Trump yesterday. But everyone knows in trade talks, even with your best friends, the hard yards are ahead. Trump's not a pushover. And as he said about Keir Starmer, Keir is a tough negotiator as well, so a lot to do.
We're going to have to cut in because we're going to run out of time soon. But can I just say, when you were in opposition back in 2017, I remember you talking about you want to restore some honesty and integrity into government. Also in 2017, you called President Trump an odious, sad little man. Imagine being proud of that as your president. In 2019, you signed a petition to stop a state visit for President Trump. You were against it. Clearly, that's not very long ago. Now you're rolling out the red carpet for a man who pardoned thousands of people who committed riots on Capitol Hill. He has serious sex charges against him. What has changed? Why should we trust you? Why should people at home trust Wes Streeting? He said one thing only 4 or 5 years ago, and he's saying another thing now.
Because like the Prime Minister and the rest of the government, my responsibility, our collective responsibility, is to deliver in Britain's national interest. And there is no doubt whatsoever, looking at our history, that the special relationship between the US and UK has been the cornerstone of Britain's defence and security. And the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister at any given time really matters. And so whatever our political differences, and look, the President Trump leads a right-wing Republican administration in the US, Keir Starmer leads the centre-left Labour government here in the UK, whatever our ideological differences and whatever differences of view we might have, we've got to find common ground and deliver in our common interest, and most importantly, deliver for Britain's national interest. And that's what we're doing.
What about the interests of, say, Ukrainians? We allow 200,000 Ukrainians in this country to give them care and protection and look after them. And now we're supporting a man who voted against the UN resolution for Ukraine and voted alongside Russia, North Korea and Israel. What about protecting British Palestinians who are worried about their families, who are, perhaps some of their family members who are under rubble in Gaza? Yet the man we're rolling a red carpet out put out a video this week calling it Trump Gaza with a big gold statue of him. Who are we protecting? Donald Trump or the people of Britain, the people who've lost family members in these world wars?
I think on both Ukraine and Gaza, as well as in terms of Britain's own national self-interest here, it's really important that we are able to work with and to influence our friends in the United States of America. That was the duty that was resting on Keir Starmer's shoulders when he went to Washington yesterday, to deliver for our country, to deliver for our continent and to deliver on our collective interests. And I think he's done that. And it's not to say that we won't have disagreements with this president, and there are always disagreements even among friends, but we want to be in a position to influence in our national self-interest as well as in terms of the wider world and the issues we care about, the war in Ukraine, the devastating war in Gaza. You know, we want to make sure that Britain is able to deliver on the global stage. That's the relationship that the Prime Minister's built and shows exactly why Keir Starmer's leadership abroad is exactly the sort of leadership the world needs right now, at the same time as is delivering at home, whether on the school breakfast clubs we announced this week, the new deal with GPs we're announcing today to bring back the family doctor. We're delivering abroad, we're delivering at home, and I hope with all the cynicism people have about politics and politicians, they take some heart from the fact that day by day, week by week, step by step, this is a government that is delivering the change that we promised. There's a hell of a lot more to do. I'm not pretending it's victory time, but we are delivering the change that we promised.
Well, one of the changes that you want to deliver this morning as Health Secretary is to talk about a new GP contract, which you say will end the 8 a.m. scramble. First of all, can you guarantee that? Secondly, the Royal College of Nursing saying that the deal that was struck for a 6% pay increase, many of which haven't received that yet. So how can we believe this new contract will work?
So two things, just on the nursing point, because that's really important. The deal was agreed and was implemented for nurses. If nurses are not receiving that pay award, that is completely unacceptable in terms of the delivery of the pay award, and I'm happy to work with the Royal College of Nursing to look at which employers are not paying and make sure they do. So that's the first commitment. And more broadly on this GP contract, I mean, firstly, this is the first time since the pandemic that a government has agreed a deal with GP, so this is a breakthrough. It means that we're going to fix the front door to the NHS. The first step to ending the 8 a.m. scramble is making sure that we've got online appointment booking in every surgery, and that will be there from October. We're also incentivising GPs to bring back the family doctor relationship. So if you're a patient who's got an ongoing health condition or you've got multiple health conditions and you're fed up with having to explain yourself over and over again to a new person every time, we're incentivising them to see the same patient with the same doctor. That will make a real difference. So real improvements for patients here. It won't fix everything all at once. We've got 14 years of mess to clean up, but it is an important step in the right direction. And I'm really proud that as well as delivering abroad, that this is a government that's delivering here at home.
Health Secretary, I don't want to interrupt you, but I know you're busy and I've got one important question more I want to ask you about health. Now, in 2024, the NHS stopped using puberty blockers. At the time, said there was remarkably weak evidence to support them and they were stopped indefinitely. Only this morning, though, and in the Times as well, it's been announced that the NHS is going to start offering puberty blockers again as part of a clinical trial. Now, why?
Well, that was always what we said we would do, the NHS and the government, because we've got...
OK, but the accusation is you're experimenting on children for something that you're not confident is safe.
Well, that's... You know, to that direct charge, I mean, that charge could be levelled at any clinical trial.
Indeed, and usually it's weighed up before continuing.
Yeah, and it has been. And just to reassure people, this clinical trial has been put together by the NHS and the National Institute for Health Research with the highest ethical standards underpinning it. And the reason why the NHS is trialling in this area is because we've got a group of very vulnerable children and young people who are experiencing real distress through gender dysphoria. This is a treatment which, as I said before, we were determined to stop on a routine basis because there wasn't sufficient evidence to underpin the safety and the effectiveness of this particular treatment for this particular group of children and young people. Puberty blockers are prescribed for children and young people with other conditions like precocious puberty safely and on the basis of clinical evidence. So the evidence does exist for that use in those cases. But the evidence wasn't there in this case, and so we committed with the NHS to build an evidence base and to settle this issue once and for all, because it shouldn't be politicians deciding these things. It should be following the evidence. So, as people I hope know, I tread extremely cautiously in this area because I will always follow the evidence and prioritise the safeguarding of children and young people and not take unacceptable risks. So that's why we're treading really cautiously in this area. OK,
Wes Streeting, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much, as ever, for joining us, Health Secretary Wes Streeting, this morning.